Well, in a 17-race season, we go plenty of places, short track speedways and super speedways, but there's only one road course. That's tonight at the Charlotte Motor Speedway Roval, 44 laps, 100 miles, and something different as we approach the halfway point of the season. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Sim TV, the first ever dual PC broadcast. We'll see what we can get into tonight with some challenges there, but Kyle Heyer alongside Finian DeCuna, Hunter Sleppy, and Eric Wineland. Guys, welcome aboard. Finian, first, in some ways tonight, as far as the stream setup. This is the first time we've ever done this, and a first for the drivers this season. Their one and only time on a road course.
I was going to say a lot of new things tonight, and like you mentioned, for these drivers, a new challenge having to make the left turns as well as right turns for the only time this season. And this is going to be one of the biggest wild cards you're going to see. Honestly, almost in some ways bigger than the super speedways, because this is where we're going to see the road course ringers. They have a chance to shine here tonight. They have a chance to lock themselves into the playoffs.
Got a few new faces in as well, like Jake Matheson. Saw he was at the top of the practice sheets, and going back to season 2, that was the last time we reigned here at the Charlotte Roval. That was won by none other than James Scioli. So it'll be interesting to see just how much this track has changed, Eric, since we've been here.
Yeah, you say road course ringers, Finian. Well, someone didn't listen to you, and that guy was Jake Matheson. He's been hot throughout the circuit here in the Area Cup Series. He's again at the top of the practice charts. His qualifying is getting underway, Kyle.
Yeah, not exactly an enormous field, too. It's not a bad field per se, but it's smaller than normal, and that could be a good thing tonight, Finian. 44 laps is enough time to get yourself into trouble. But even though there's not maybe as many drivers as we had a couple of weeks ago at Dover, you're not necessarily racing your competitors. We're doing here what we like to call racing the racetrack. That's just all about survival and making it to the end.
Yeah, I mean, it also doesn't help that Charlotte Roval is also a notoriously difficult road course. It's effectively a street course designed as a regular speedway, because you can see these guys all throughout the oval section, all throughout the infield section. They got walls constantly next to them, right up against them. If they make one single mistake, they'll easily find that barrier and take themselves out. And again, it's 44 laps. It doesn't sound like a whole lot of laps, but it's going to feel grueling for a lot of these drivers.
Especially this backstretch chicane, saw drivers locking up and going over the rumble strips. That's definitely not going to help your case if you're trying to put down a flyer lap for qualifying, or let alone in the race. Because Eric, it's kind of like endurance racing. It's 44 laps. We only get a caution for halfway, no caution for incident. So you just gotta take it like a sprint, or no, take it like a marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah, except I think we did away with the halfway caution rule, if I remember correctly, a couple seasons ago. We'll double check on that one, but yeah, it's absolutely a marathon, not a sprint. You got to have a car that can go the distance, and the distance for these guys will include one pit stop. These guys can only do 36 laps of fuel in the tanks, so expect pit stops as early as lap 8. And the weird thing about the Cup car, guys, is the tire fall off is like almost non-existent. I watched Dom DeLeo in practice. He's one of the few that put out more than 10 laps on the racetrack in one go. And he ran as fast as a minute 21 in his practice times, and he never really slouched off of that. Now, the guys laying qualifying times down are going to be a little bit faster than that. Dom's not the front runner of the field, but I don't expect to see a lot of fall off throughout the night. So probably a lot of fuel-only strategies we'll get to watch tonight as we see guys start to take their first time lap.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a while since we've been at the Roval here on Sim TV, Finian, but I remember it a couple of seasons ago. I think it might have even been back with the Outsider Racing League a handful of seasons ago. We went to the Roval and then we went to Indy. And the differences between the Cup Series cars tire wear and the Xfinity Series tire wear was just astronomical. It was second, it actually might have been this series or this league, seconds upon seconds upon seconds of time lost over the course of 10 or 15 laps in the Xfinity car. But the Cup Series tire was like driving on obsidian. It was impossibly hard, and I don't think we'll see a lot change tonight, especially with the weather. The track temp is warm, and we'll be sliding around a little bit, but regardless of that, the tires are long-lasting.
Well, we'll see, because I remember even with the next-gen car last time we were here with the Roval, is that we didn't even see the guys come in to change tires. They just came in for a splash and dash, because you don't need a full tank of fuel. So they just came in, got some fuel, and were off on their way, and didn't change tires just to save that time. So I'm curious to see if we'll see that same thing tonight, because like Eric mentioned, like you mentioned, the tire fall probably not going to be that significant. It might be viable to just come in, get a splash of fuel. These guys can almost entirely run the entire race on a single tank of gas.
There's Okresic going to complete a lap around the Charlotte Roval. Guys, he needs a good run tonight, and with the low car count, this could be what Okresic needs as a big break. Looking at it in the point standings, he's 30th in points. Lost 7 points last week, or seven positions in points last week in Dover. So Okresic looking for a big bounce back here at the Roval.
Yeah,
I feel like there's a couple guys that are in that dire position, and this can be a turnaround race. So you guys mentioned the different skill set with road course racing. Some of those guys can find their way back into what they need, and then from there, it's about getting yourself into a points position to make the playoff if wins are not looking likely. So we'll get to see what happens here as we watch David Weishart take his timed lap here, Kyle, and looking pretty good through backstretch chicane.
Yeah, we'll go over the track map a little bit later in the evening here, but that back straightaway chicane is a big challenge to slow down. Of course, every time you come here, you have to talk about the curbing on the front straight and back straight chicanes. Very tall. It's easy to get the car upset on them, but you have to take them pretty aggressively to make speed around here. If you give up time in the curves, you're giving up time in the lap. You'll see Weishart nibble there on the right, nibble there on the left, but the backstretch chicane in particular, you really need to slam through. Thankfully, it's not quite as wild as it was in previous years. Weishart up to 10th on his lap out. James Scioli, Jake Matheson, Seth Knoll, your top three. Douglas Newbegin, a strong qualifying effort there in fourth so far. Jake Nichols, Miller, DeLeo, Horn, and Justin Bondurant all on the track at the moment, including, as we mentioned, Connor Horn, Finian, who is riding a little bit of a high wave the last couple of weeks.
Has been doing that quite a bit, and curious to see if he can continue that momentum forward by putting in a solid run here at the Roval. He's gained a huge amount of points. He's finally broken inside the top 20, so he is officially locked in going forward as long as he keeps that top 20 status with one win to his name, and I'm sure that's definitely not going to satisfy him enough here. So he's on his first time lap. These guys have 2 time laps here tonight, so, and we know Connor fairly decent at the road courses, so I expect this 42 to be closer to the front.
And you should see him working the wheel. I don't know if we have our in-sim shots tonight here at Sim TV, but Connor through that infield section was working extremely hard on his wheel, and we'll get to see it and see what he could do through the front stretch chicane here.
Was his tongue out?
The mouth was hanging wide open, and the wheel was flicking back and forth so much. And I think he was pretty loose from what I could see, and he's very high in the revs to get slowed down for the front stretch.
Yeah, and we documented in the very opening of the show that this is the first night on the dual PC stream setup. First time in 6 years that we've had that here at Sim TV, and all that commotion as Connor Horn gets in the wall there out of turn 1. Didn't boot up the Zoom. It sounds like people are on it, so as soon as we do that transition from qualifying to race, we'll see if we can get that live and have our live shots as we always do. Here's Jake Nichols working his way through NASCAR 1 and 2 right now at the 73. He's also kind of got the horse back riding again here in 2023. So to speak.
I was going to say, flying into the chicane there. You can see him flying over the curbs and almost going into the barrier there, so might have to look at lap 2. I didn't see what the first half of this lap is, but 73 Jake Nichols in practice was one of the quicker cars, was third fastest on the board, so should have a decent time here. It's just a matter of making sure you get in a solid lap as he comes flying through the chicane, almost hitting the wall on exit.
11th for Jake Nichols. And only 3 drivers left to run a qualifying lap. Jacob Bell, Ben Pierce, Dwayne Culberson. The other 24 drivers have taken their times. And there's a few cars left on track just getting some practice laps, including Connor Okresic, who's on lap 4 and still gaining time. So, Eric, going back to what you said about the tires lasting a long time, especially if you find yourself getting better just because you're getting into the rhythm more, you can go quicker even later in the run.
I don't know, since we've gone to the next gen car, Kyle, the last time I've seen tires on a pit stop that has resulted in a good finish, that sort of strategy just hasn't worked. And I'm not sure if it's the tire model or the way these cars are, but there's no fall off, and it's just surprising to me how that works. It acts more like, and you guys have more experience with this here at SimTV, a GT car, in that you can double, maybe triple stint tires if you really need to.
I think so. That's actually.
I would say it's
description.
almost even better than GT cars because it almost seems to get faster by the end of the run.
Yeah,
less downforce, I guess.
Yeah, in a GT or a prototype car, you might sometimes see a quick lap at the end of a stint just because the fuel's burning off. But otherwise, the tire performance is generally degrades a little bit. It seems like tonight it's not even going to do much at all. Jake Nichols ran quicker on his second lap, did a 1:23.55, and puts him to the top of the board, guys. So qualifying effectively complete as we get set for our 44-lap main event here tonight. Lots to consider as we head into this evening.
Yeah, definitely a lot to consider. Again, going to be the only time we're going to see these Cup drivers here at the Roval. If you do really like the Roval, well, congratulations for you. We got some good news. You're going to be heading here not only for the Truck Series tomorrow night, but also the Pro Series on Thursday. So the Roval the entire week. I would say I'm out of all three. I feel like the Xfinity the Pro Series is probably going to be the better one. I feel like the Pro Series cars race really well around here, but these Cup cars, I'm tempted to see here because we got some really good talent up near the front of the field, and even looking at qualifying, the times at the front pretty close together.
There's
a tie for second place too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, 119.79 for Matheson and Curran.
That's impressive stuff here. And there's a look at Connor Horn and some others here as we get to kind of experience a little bit of everything as we head into the night. 44 laps, as we mentioned, is the distance. Any challenges, Eric, beyond just the racetrack itself as far as conditions? The track temp's pretty hot. Is it one of those situations where we might see the lap time stay the same, but the cars drive a lot worse at the end?
Yeah, as we documented, the tires aren't going to fall off as bad, so I don't know that you're going to have an ill-handling race car. But we saw right there the little key to the race that I think could happen in what Connor was doing there. Taking a drink, getting yourself hydrated, keeping yourself loose for this race. You got a lot of turning to do, which these guys are not typically used to turning to the right, as we've said. So depending on how some of them drive, like I saw Connor Horn before we pulled the zoom camera up during qualifying there, if you're working the wheel as hard as he was, it's going to be a physically exhausting night for these guys.
And here's a look at the Charlotte Roval in its current configuration. The chicane on the back straightaway might be one of your passing opportunities. The chicane on the front straightaway as well. The infield section is pretty challenging, though, Finian. That's going to be follow the leader or rough and tumble. Get your fenders out and wide. But it's a really fun racetrack to make laps. But it can be just frankly annoying if you're stuck in traffic or having trouble moving forward.
Yeah, this is an oddly technical track for a stock car. There's a lot of stop and go corners, a lot of very technical corners where you have to set up the corner prior, so it's very difficult to navigate around here in a stock car, and it's honestly kind of what makes it great to see, because you're going to see these guys struggle, and it makes for some very entertaining racing.
Race fans, be sure to subscribe to the Area iRacing Twitch channel. As a subscriber, you'll have Area iRacing emotes to use in the chat. You'll also earn double channel points as a subscriber that you can use to redeem for free merchandise, all at the price of just $5 a month. And start your engines with a fresh cup of Roasted Gems coffee. Choose from some of the finest coffee beans from Colombia and Peru, or try the blended flavors of French vanilla and hazelnut. Use discount code Area iRacing for 10% off your order at checkout at roastedgems.com. Let's get through our starting lineup here tonight. Finian on the front row, it's going to be James Scioli. Maybe no surprise there. He's obviously the car to beat at road courses, as he always seems to be. Jake Matheson starts alongside him.
Okay, rolling off in second place, row number 2. In third place is going to be Michael Curran in the 24. Next to him, Ricky Springer in the 51. We know he's good at the road course, so watch out for that car. And then behind them, it's going to be row 3, Connor O'Kresick in the number 14. Seth Knoll starts 6th in the number 1. Jake Nichols going to be rolling off in 7th place in the 73. Next to him, Douglas Newby in the 71, rolling off from 8th.
And in 9th place, it's Greg Mitchell in the number 2. Travis Beckner starts 10th in the number 28 machine.
Going back to 11th, going to be Edward Sherrod Jr. in the 17 car. Next to him, David Weishart in the 33, rolling off at 12th.
And then in 13th place, it's Cedric Hunter in the number 13. Justin Bondurant starts 14th in the number 11.
Back in 15th, Kwame Scott. Glad to see him back in the car in the 99. Going to be rolling off in 15th. Bryce Senizak next to him in the 09 in 16th place.
And 17th place, Justin Anasogak in the number 67 Camaro. Connor Horn starts 18th. Recent winner from Atlanta a couple weeks back starts in the number 42 on the outside of that 9th row.
Jeremy Miller is going to be rolling off in the 30 car in 19th and rounding out your top 20. Rafe Slade in the number 8 car.
And 21st place, Garrett Grant, the number 5. Dom DeLeo starts 22nd in the fittingly numbered 22 car.
Back in 23rd is going to be Skylar Shackelford in the 88 car. Next to him, Ed Robertson in the 64, rolling off in 24th.
And 25th place is Ben Pierce in the number 65. Dwayne Culberson starts 26th in the number 81. And just a couple more cars left. One of them, Jacob Bell, in the number 77. All right, guys, time to pick our favorites. Eric, let's start with you.
Oh, this one's a tough one. You guys put me on pole position again?
Yep.
Oh, I love you guys for that. I'll take the pole sitter. James Scioli has proven he is one of the road course ringers of the series, of the entire league, but he's also very good on ovals. He's first shined on road courses, and he's going to shine again tonight, Kyle. James Scioli is my pick to win to try to gain back some points in our commentator standings.
And Finney DeCuna, pick me your favorite.
I'm really torn between the 51 and the 56. However, I'm feeling like as far as practice times and even in qualifying is concerned, that 56 is looking just that much quicker. I'm going to have to go with Jake Matheson.
And Hunter Slepping.
All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and take the 51, kind of a sleeper pick. Ricky Springer in the 51. I know we're all looking at the 7 and the 56, thinking that those two are going to run away with it. Don't count out Ricky Springer. He knows a thing or two about lefts and rights on these road courses here on iRacing.
Well, it wouldn't be very much fun if I picked something somebody else already picked, and I put myself last, so let's roll with Jake Nichols. I think the 73 gets it done. He typically runs pretty good on road courses. I think he'll be in a good position, at the very least. A solid points take for me if he does all right, which is really all I'm looking for, to salvage a poor season in the commentator standings as we roll through and come back around. Now, my question, because we haven't checked in on it, what is Michael Curran? He's got a different view for us tonight. Oh boy.
Oh boy.
I can't read the sign.
You don't want to.
My picks are available for free for tonight only.
Okay,
so this is essentially his free
not the worst
trial
thing I've seen
right
tonight.
here.
We're good.
Well, we can barely see it on the broadcast, but I'm pretty sure Kyle, you have a good view of it.
Yeah, that's it.
Left side, there's no way that left side monitor is actually, that's got to be a reflection, right?
I think
That
so.
is 100%
Okay.
a reflection.
Because I'm looking at it like he's got his UI mirrored, and that looked very odd to me. But
Well, I know we only got 27 cars in, but the whole idea of going to the multi-PC setup was to gain performance for both the Stream PC and the iRacing PC. It seems to be doing fantastic. The next thing I had to do is crank up the bit rate because we can do a lot more with the GPU so unloaded. So lots of really nice improvements coming with this change, and it was a pretty frantic last-minute coming together tonight to get it. I wasn't even planning on using it tonight, but almost didn't happen. But we're going to get to test this new feature, building out a room effectively just for streaming. It's got 2 computers running in it now, one with iRacing, one with everything else. My cat is sitting on the mixer because it's nice and warm, and we're getting ready to go racing for 44 laps from the Charlotte Roval here tonight. James Scioli trying to repeat his road racing magic from previous seasons. Jake Matheson, Michael Curhan, Ricky Springer, and more trying to keep him from repeating. Through the final chicane, 44 laps. And green flag, we're racing at the Roval. Off to a strong start. James Scioli leads Matheson into turns 3 and 4 in the infield section here. Then it's Ricky Springer, a little side-by-side deeper. There's Jake Nichols on Connor O'Kresick, and then Mitchell right behind.
Yeah, first couple of rows already getting single filed out. Greg Mitchell trying to fight it with Connor O'Kresick. He's going to have to settle back into 8th place as the leaders start to sort themselves out. Matheson, though, keeping up to pace with the number 7 of James Scioli.
We're going to roll through NASCAR turn 1 now. Going to get back on to the oval portion.
Oh, spin!
We got a spin! Couple cars spinning.
One of them, Travis Beckner, in the middle of the field. Everybody scatters. Justin Bondurant sideways, and everybody's stuck.
I was going to say, don't have cautions on.
They're still piling in.
Oh, boy.
And more trouble getting spun
they're
around.
still being wrecked around.
Culberson, that's turned around.
So trouble already for a couple of cars, and we've got to go back a little further to find how it started. It started with the 28 of Travis Beckner. And here's how that happened. Oh, it got in behind the 2 and then the 71 at Newbegin.
Big check up area. That's already a tough section of the racetrack to come onto. Everyone's loose and on edge with their car, and unfortunately had that little bit of a pileup. Though for the most part, everyone's going to be making it on through. It doesn't look like anyone's come down the road.
Connor Horn is just pulled to the side. I think he's letting people go because of the damage on his car. He was up in around 12th and it's just dropped all the way down. Still getting hit.
Oh, he's coming back. Here we go. He's three wide and ahead of him just for a second. Going to just get past Dom DeLeo. He's got Cedric Hunter, Kyle Shackelford up ahead of him.
A busy moment there as he tries to recoup some of the lost ground. And this section turning back up onto the oval is a pretty slow part of the racetrack. You don't have any aero. Not that these cars have a lot to begin with, but you're really leaning on the mechanical grip there. Easy to light up the rear tires, easy to get understeer. And we saw a bunch of drivers just get blocked. It's also a pretty blind corner. You come out of there and you're just hoping the track's clear, and when it's not, you end up with what you had a lap or two ago as Horn goes by Shackelford there on the backstretch chicane.
You see Connor Horn there at the end of the shot, just bumping up and down, going flying over those curves, but he's off on his way on through to 14th. He was slow and dropped a lot of positions because he had a slowdown earlier, so he gave up time, but Jake Matheson going back to him, not giving up a lot of time as we head to Seth Noel. Michael Curran, who taps the concrete wall on the outside after he gets loose. That's a tricky section of track there. You got to really push the car. You see him working the steering wheel here, trying to hold up. Jake Nichols is going to try to rock around the outside, and we'll get by him on the straightaway.
Well, it's only lap 3, and Eric, I think the radio's lit up like some Christmas decorations on the neighborhood.
Have you ever heard of the 12 Pains of Christmas, guys?
Nope.
If you haven't, go look that song up on YouTube. One light goes out, they all go out. That's what happened for the race cars. One spin happened, they all decided to be a part of the spin. Yes, the radio's lit up like a Christmas tree, Hunter. That's a pretty good seasonal analogy there. A whole mess of things. Justin Bondurant in the 11 blinked out for a good section of the backstretch chicane, and he immediately got punted. Oh, what a hit for Garrett Grant there. That's terminal.
Oh,
that is a broken suspension.
Oh, he gets clobbered
again. Oh, boy.
Ed Robertson might have had the same thing. There was a car in front of him that smacked that same wall.
Wow.
And Douglas Newbegin is insult to injury because he was involved in the earlier incident, I believe, as well.
Yeah, you see Robertson up the road do the same thing. He hits the wall and it spins him out. So does the 5, and he rolls back across the road into Newbegin and sends him for a loop.
Jeremy Miller was one of the guys I was going to report on that I could not play his radio over the broadcast, and it just got even worse right there because he was part of this incident. See him get collected here behind the 71.
Oh, man, that's a solid hit right there. Yeah, and that wall is notorious for having, constantly people bumping into it because, again, you're throwing the car right up against the wall. That's the fast line, but we saw right there 2 cars have to almost retire as you see 71 flying over the curbing.
This is a Cup Series car, Douglas, not a Pro 2 light truck, all right?
Well, those got the new damage model too, so I don't think he would love doing that in even the Pro 2 anymore. But all the while out front, Scioli is still extending his lead, but it's not the lights out show that it has been in seasons past. Jake Matheson's keeping him honest. And as long as you can keep him within a second or two, you have the opportunity to play some strategy on the pit lane with Finian. With these Cup cars, you don't have the overcut opportunity or the undercut opportunity because you're not wearing out the tires, as we discussed in the pre-race.
Yeah, that's really the big thing, and because we don't have the cautions as well, it's effectively a sprint from here to the end. There's no breaks in between, so you got to be on point the entire time, especially if you're in pursuit for this win. So, like Matheson, you just got to wait. I think, if anything, the big factor will be lap traffic. Not that we have, like we mentioned, don't have too many cars here. And especially because we had quite a few of them crash out or in the pits at the moment, but that could be also a big factor depending on when these guys catch them.
And then whenever these guys do have to come down pit road, like Eric said, they can go about 36 laps on a tank of fuel. It's going to be when that first car comes in, whether that be the 7 or the 56. Someone's got to give, and someone's got to be the first one to go down. And the other one's just going to be waiting on. And the two of Matheson and Scioli's were in sync with Matheson right now, keeping about a 1.2 second gap from himself and race leader James Scioli.
You could see the first one as early. Oh, Connor Horn just took a big hit in the back. You could see the first one as early as 3 laps from now. He absolutely pile drove the tire barrier on the left-hand side there of turns 5 and 6. We'll see him get wide, and once you touch the grass, you're gone like he was right there. But yeah, Hunter, the first pit stops could happen as early as 3 laps from now. Lap 8 is when the window opens up and you can make it to the end on fuel. I like the track position with the lappers call, personally. If I were calling this race as a driver and I wanted to make my own strategy, the diffuser to the ground, it equals more downforce, which should, in theory, mean a little more corner speed. So I want to keep as much fuel in the tank as I can, keep that rear end down. So I would think about making my pit stop earlier in the sequence, but also I want to play it with lap traffic, right? I don't want to hit myself into a position where I have to deal with slower cars in front of me, and I want to pit. That way I don't have to handle lap traffic until as late as possible. So it's almost like you need an F1 engineering team to see where you're going to come out on the racetrack for is when do you pit. And I can tell you every single one of these guys does not have that atop their box. There's a couple spotters. Dwayne Dunn on top for Garrett Grant, but Garrett's got terminal damage, and Dylan Lee is on top of the box of Ricky Springer, at least in the session tonight. I'm sure there's others that are spectating, but it would take a team of those guys to figure out where the pit delta is, and none of those guys just have that tonight. So it'd be interesting to see what these guys decide, Kyle.
Yeah, we're operating on a bit more strategy than we typically would have, even on an oval, just because, I don't know that everyone has these scienced out as much as your traditional oval race. There's all sorts of things you can do. What kind of changes things is because we talked about, the tires not having a distinct advantage when they're fresh. That gives you more choice, but it also makes those choices less effective, Finian. You can't just pit 5 laps later and have way better tires, but that also gives you the flexibility to pit 5 laps later. So, it's a double-edged sword when those tires are not wearing out so much. And just for reference, James Scioli, the leader, just ran a lap time that was only 2/10 off his best lap of the race. 7 laps into a race in the Roval with 120-degree track temp. That is fast.
I was going to say it's almost negligible fall off. And I think we're really going to see is, again, the guys who benefit will be the guys who pit strategically as we look a little bit further down the order. Travis Beckner carrying on with his damage. Not really affected him a whole lot. He's lost a couple places due to just, I think, being involved in that whole mess. But all in all, that car doesn't look too bad. I guess the big concern is if he's got any engine damage pending, because he's got to ride around with that for majority, pretty much 3/4 of this race up to go.
He's not really going to know until he comes down pit road. And like Eric said, they can come down in about a couple of laps from now. That's when the window opens. But you're probably not going to see guys come in for the first 15 laps or so. Maybe around lap 20, we see some guys come in, try to split it halfway. We're not going to know for a while if the damage on the 28 of Vector is terminal for the engine.
Just for reference, his last lap was a 1:21.39, which is roughly the same as the next 7 or 8 drivers ahead of him, and he's going to go down the inside to make a pass on Connor Horn. A little bit of maybe almost some side-by-side contact there through the chicane as they bounce through, but left each other just enough space to cooperate, and I think Beckner will have this spot. Battle for third is heating up with Ricky Springer and Seth Nolan, that 51.
Yeah, Noel definitely looking the faster of the two at the moment, but again, it's a matter of trying to pass these cars, and of course these things fairly wide at some parts of the track, and depending on the right hands, you can make the car even wider than it actually is. So for Seth Noel, he's going to have to try to see where he can beat Ricky Springer. You can see him here going a little bit wider, backing up the entry into this next corner, trying to find some sort of way, some sort of hole in the 51's defense.
Goes through NASCAR turn 1, now down to the bottom for NASCAR turn 2. Gonna get himself lined up for the backstretch chicane. It has about a 3-car length gap between himself and Noel, but we'll see how it is heading into the chicane. Gonna be pretty good there. Don't want to get too high on the curb for the exit. Don't want to get caught up in that. And you saw right behind those two, you got Jake Nichols and Michael Curran, also with about the same gap between each other, battling for the top 5 spot.
Some good battles heating up. How about this? Cedric Hunter and Rafe Slate. This one's for 12th place with Cedric Hunter right behind that 8 car. Started 13th, running 13th. Fell back, though, earlier in the race and was able to eat away at some of those positions that he lost. And then Rafe just ahead of him. Started 20th, he's up to 12th, so plus 8 spots for Rafe early in the going. That's a really solid climb for him so far.
I was going to say, it is an extremely solid climb for him, trying to make his way up the order while we've seen quite a few guys lose out, especially in the opening laps. They're trying to muscle his way up the order. We'll see where he can end up at. He's just trying to get past that 99. And if he can continue to keep the pace up.
Good battles all throughout the track, and even outside the top 10, because every spot matters for those guys trying to make the playoffs at the end of the season. It all adds up, because if you can't get in from a win, you got to get in being consistent, working your way inside that top 12 in points. And that's what we're seeing right now with Cedric Hunter, trying to keep that gap between himself and the A. Going to go set inside now, trying to take the spot away. This is going to be interesting as they roll through the entrance of NASCAR Turn 1. Some crossover, some bumping, some grinding, heading into the Turn 1.
That was really, really dicey stuff. He's going to muscle into him, and they make contact into NASCAR 1 on the banking. The 13 goes around.
That was right in front of Travis Beckner, too, who avoided it at the last second. And unfortunately, that's going to result in some lost positions and damage on the 13.
Yeah, just kind of ran him out of room there, Finian, and that was one of those self-policing. You just tried to crowd him to make sure he had the spot, and ended up in the fence.
Well, I mean, you play with fire, you can't complain if you get burned. So for both of them, they end up losing out, especially the 13 of Cedric Hunter drops way down to 18th. Ray Slate going to drop back to 14th, and that Connor Horn, Travis Beckner going to both benefit. They gain 2 spots apiece, up to 12th and 13th for them, respectively.
Oh, there's Senesek on pit road. Looks like he'll be one of the first takers to come on down and pit and be good to go for the rest of the way.
Yeah, one of the first takers on pit road, and simple strategy, just come in and be done, right? Especially if the tires aren't going to give you anything, you might as well come early and then just plan on kind of running nice, smooth laps for the rest of the race. I said in the intro, Finian.
Oh, sorry to cut you off there. Fuel only for Senesek.
Yeah, I said in the intro that you're racing the racetrack tonight, right? So you're just trying to complete nice, clean, smooth laps. And as long as you do that, you're going to have an okay finish. This isn't one of those races, even like one of those road courses like Watkins Glen, where you're directly wheel-to-wheel with competitors the rest of the time. It's all about nailing your lap after lap, because most of the laps you do are by yourself.
They usually are. For Jake Nichols, he's heading closer and closer to other cars. This has been mostly by himself, pretty much since the drop of the green flag after the opening laps, but now caught up to Seth Knoll and Ricky Springer, so effectively going to become a 3-way battle for 3rd place.
Even though Senesek was just down pit road, we'll go ahead and hit up Eric Warland down on the pit lane. Eric, what you got for us?
Not chilling on the pit lane right now, still flying around in the drone camera, but I did have a piece of radio for you guys from Miller Racing is teamed up with Solid Rock again. For some reason, they're in the same Discord channel this week once more. We saw the incident with Cedric Hunter and Rafe Slate. Here's some commentary on that from Rafe Slate and company.
Eric, there is no drama.
Next time, just pump me like a real man.
No, maybe there is.
There's no drama. Well, maybe there is some drama. Go ahead.
What'd he say?
Something stupid, I don't know.
How in the world am I back inside the top 15, though?
So a couple of things to unpack there. That was Rafe Slate being upset with Cedric Hunter and saying you should have just punted me. And then Cedric replied on their in-sim radio. No one heard it. And then very funnily, Connor Okresic coming in with the drama a bit. And then, Travis Beckner, by the way, 12th after his incident in the early part of the race. He's up to 12th, carrying that nose damage, guys.
Yeah, he's rebounded quite nicely from that early incident. And Rafe Slate, again, regardless of that contact he had with 13 to Cedric Hunter, he's still up massively from where he started that race. Again, not the best qualifying effort. David Weissart hits pit lane in the number 33, another driver that has just kind of quietly hung around. And we mentioned in the intro, Kwame Scott, Finian, was gone for a couple of weeks. We saw him in the All-Star race last week, and here he is tonight, 15th up to 10th in that number 99 Chevy.
Yeah, and actually under attack now by Travis Beckner, who caught up a lot into the final chicane. Trying to look to the outside as the teammates are starting to fight each other on the racetrack here. Kwame Scott putting up a bit of a defense, now decides to let on Travis Beckner, move up to 10th and back inside the top 10.
Fuel only here on pit road for David Weissart, guys. Quick stop. What was it? He was so short, I didn't get a stop time on my timing sheet.
For the 33, let's see what we got. 7 seconds in the pit box, and all fuel is what it was. And that was kind of what we saw with Bryce Senesac as well, Finian. It doesn't seem like anyone's being tempted to take for Mr. Feelgoods when they don't feel all that good.
Battle for third, Ricky Springer, Seth Knoll to the inside in turn 1. And it's going to be Springer that might have the advantage here on the outside. Seth Knoll trying to make use of the inside, and he will just clear the 51. Springer tries to go back in the inside door, gets slammed shut. And now Nichols going to almost make a move, almost make it 3 wide into turn 4.
Making Springer have to drive in a little more and almost got into the one of Seth Knoll, but now to his inside now is the 73 of Jake Nichols, looking for that 4th position, and then not too far behind lurking is the 24 Michael Curran. So Springer going to drop from 3rd to 5th, Nichols up to 4th, and teammate Seth Knoll up to 3rd.
Yeah, Ricky Springer kind of getting swarmed there a little bit as Seth Knoll continues his drive forward. Jake Matheson's 2.4 behind James Scioli, who, again, as the kind of the in-house road ringer, is going to be very, very tough to beat tonight, regardless of the circumstances. Tommy Scott's also got pressure now from the 42 of Connor Horn, who's all over the back of that Celsius Chevy.
God, as he's trying to see, it's so tempting to squeeze your nose up the inside, but he knows he can't really do it. They're going to end up turning the guy, so going to have another go here back onto the oval. Oh, he taps the wall just a little bit on the exit, and now he's going to try to get some sort of slipstream. Might have a chance in the backstretch again.
Going to come off NASCAR turn 2, going to have a look at the inside, might be sending it. Oh, almost messed up there. Might hit the bumper of Scott as they go through the chicane, but it was almost a close call there as we go back to Eric Weiland flying around the drone at Charlotte.
Radio from Seth Knoll and Jake Nichols as they were passing Ricky Springer right there, guys.
Jesus, Ricky. All right. Let's set sail.
So that's about all they said, but you could kind of get the relief. They were happy to be by the 51. It's another step toward the podium. Seth looking pretty good right now, barely holding the spot over Jake Nichols.
And Nichols is starting to apply a bit of pressure to the rear bumper of that number 1. And he was my pick tonight because you guys took all the obvious ones, so I had to go with Jake Nichols. But I felt pretty good because I know he'll just get a decent result tonight. Even if it's not a win, he's still a hot shot for a podium.
Yeah, I was going to say, he really has a really solid shot with 3rd place directly ahead of him. It's about 10 seconds up to the leaders, but I mean, hey, there's still time in this race. You never know, especially with some clean air might do him good. And the teammate's going to exchange spots, going to swap positions. Nichols officially up to 3rd place.
Just a hair under 11 seconds behind the top 2. Scioli with a 2.5-second lead over Jake Matheson. They've kind of been the class of the field, but Nichols has worked his way up into the podium spot. Seth Knoll as well inside the top 5. Only 15 laps in, still got a long ways to go. As we go back to Columbia, Connor Horn battling for 11th on the track.
Yeah, one of the closest battles here. Another one that's very close is Skylar Shackelford and Douglas Newbegin. Newbegin goes by, takes 16th place away. A little bit of a lock up there. Big slam over the curbs there, which will damage that underbelly there, Finian, if you're not too careful.
Yeah, that's a big thing too. I got to talk about. You know, obviously with the next gen car, a lot more focus on the underbelly aero. I mean, more so than any other stock car. And I think all of NASCAR's history. I mean, this thing's got a diffuse in the back, so you got to take care of it because there is some downforce generated there, and that's going to give you, you know, a little bit of grip. It's not going to feel like a whole lot, but it's going to definitely help you wheel these things around this track.
Newbegin also trying to make the climb back towards the front as he was caught up in a number of incidents within the first handful of laps in this race. Has quietly worked his way through to 16th, 4 seconds behind Cedric Hunter, 15th position on the racetrack.
Checking out front, James Scioli, and just checking on the lap times. This is just unbelievably consistent. Less than half a mile an hour off, and that translates to only about 0.3 of a second. 16 laps in, and that is all considering a track temperature of over 120 degrees Fahrenheit, Finian. That's wild reliability for those Goodyear tires.
It really is, and you can also see now that James Scioli is starting to catch some lap traffic here, is trying to work around Ben Pierce, who'll pull out of the way. So this is where we could see an advantage come into Jake Matheson, or vice versa, depending on where and how they catch these guys. If you catch a guy in the infield section, they decide not to pull over, it's going to cost you quite a bit of time.
Oh, cat is biting the microphone. It just okay. Well, one of the new things about the stream setup is that the cat can't necessarily sit in my lap the same way, so he's trying to find ways to be involved. So we're coming up with a new system. He has to have a cat bed beside him. we're going to have one soon because I'm building out an actual booth, which I've been wanting to do for a long time. Actually, you guys probably don't even know this because this was long before the area relationship, but I was installing new flooring and painting my basement in my parents' house, getting ready to commit to SimTV as a full-time job during the pandemic, right before I got hired at Grid Life. And
then you moved.
I got the job offer a week later, as I had just bought the flooring. So finally get to build the studio of my dreams in a 7x11 space, nonetheless. But one of those things will be a camera. You get to see my ugly face on occasion, and maybe the cat.
Oh, you get to see mine every Tuesday night when you see me racing, and Thursday nights as long as I make the show. Meanwhile, the story from Pit Road, guys. So James Scioli, actually, let me back up a little bit here. So David Weishart and Bryce Senesack are the first two that we saw really put a competitive pit stop in. Those guys racing pretty hard, but they're down in 17th and 20th respectively right now. 32, we'll call it 32 and a half seconds pit lane delta from the time they hit the start of pit lane to when they hit pit exit line. Give them maybe an extra 5 to 10 seconds getting on and off pit road. Where does that put the leaders right now? James Scioli is 30 seconds ahead of Edward Scherer Jr. in 9th place. So he's almost to his window where he can make a pit stop and still be in the top 8 positions in this race. And that would also eliminate passing a lot of traffic. So I think the window is getting ready to open up. James Scioli and Jake Matheson. It might be a little bit further stretched for Jake Nichols, who is now passed for 3rd over Seth Knoll and Ricky Springer. Those guys were 5 laps from halfway, so 5 laps from realistically when these guys will pit. But I think more so looking at the gaps, I would not be surprised to see the 7 or the 56 very soon, as we see the 88 exiting pit road.
Yeah, while the pit stops are beginning to happen, a great fight here between Greg Mitchell and Connor Okresic. This is for 7th place. Nose to tail through the infield section here, Finian. This track races a lot more like a street course in the infield than it does a traditional road course. It's really tight confines down here. There is a tiny bit of elevation, but not a ton. And then you've got, of course, a fairly narrow racetrack and slow speeds to boot.
Yeah, slow speeds, narrow margins as well, because we've seen you make one mistake, you're going to go off into the grass, off into a tire barrier. So, and we've already seen 2 cars retire on the left, after the left-hander right here, hitting that wall. Haven't seen any major incidents since, and then on the exit here, of course, seen quite a bit of carnage coming back onto the oval section as Greg Mitchell's hounding the back of Okresic as they do get out for 7th.
Getting close to that bumper. Might have touched it once or twice, maybe thrice, but he's still trying to find a way around him cleanly. Then now the backstretch into the backstretch chicane now. See the 2 start to close that gap, and not going to be a good exit for him. So maybe Okresic can try and pull away, but they still got to go through the front stretch chicane on the last few left-hand, right-hand corners of the lap.
Small detail that might be influencing this just a little bit tonight. It certainly would bother me. And Finian's going to roll his eyes when he hears what I'm talking about. But when the build got updated, there was something broke the rumble strip sounds. And I bring this up because I use those as an audio cue for when I'm at the edge of the road. And tonight, drivers will not have that audio cue because the sounds got broken in the build. We're waiting for a patch to fix it. But if that was something that you help us, that even if you subconsciously use to assist where your line is, you're going to be missing that feedback tonight. So that could be bothering a couple drivers out there. Greg Mitchell, Connor Okresic, they might even know what's bothering them. They might just be off by a little bit and not figuring quite out. I'll tell you, Greg Mitchell leaving a lot of pressure on the bumper of that 14, though, Finian, almost into the back of him there into turn 4.
Yeah, I was going to say, awfully close. There's been several occasions where he's gotten awfully close to the back of that bumper and almost turned him around, but is just riding it enough to put enough pressure without actually physically making contact, although I imagine at some point his patience is going to wear thin. And here we go, another battle between the 51 and the 1. Jake Nichols, he's checked off into the distance. You can barely see his purple car off turn 4, NASCAR turn 4. And as they both come off the banking and into the chicane, Ricky Springer trying to see if he can get past Seth Knoll. Round number 2 for both these guys.
Trying to get a good run there through that last left and right-hander, but not going to be enough there. So heading into turn 1 and now turn 2, trying to make up that ground he lost on the one of Knoll.
Springer keeping the pressure on the back of the 1 here. And Cedric Hunter and DeLeo also pretty close together. We'll take you there. This is a battle for 14th place. Cedric Hunter rebounding from an issue earlier that he had with the 8 of Rafe Slate. They came together and NASCAR won, and Cedric still has not fully rebounded.
And I tell you what, he's catching up to Rafe Slate, so he'll be there in about, I would say, maybe another 10, 15 laps. So round 2 for both of them, and I can't imagine it's going to end on a cheeky note for either of them. But we'll see when Cedric Hunter gets past here. Dom DeLeo putting up a decent
look out.
defense.
That was really tight between Mitchell and Okresic into turn 7 there.
Yeah, I was going to say, almost turned him around again. He's getting awfully close. He's trying to make the 14 make a mistake, but Okresic's just not budging.
No, and he could have dumped him there if he wanted to, and we saw that a couple of times tonight, but chose better of it, and now going to try and reel him back in and pass him cleanly once more. Good run there on the exit.
There's only so many times that you'll back out of that pass before you'll force it. And Okresic, you don't have to give up anybody anything, but it's one of those self-policing things where if you close that door too many times, they're just going to barge through it and they're not going to announce their arrival. So Greg Mitchell certainly keeping Connor on his toes right now as we approach the halfway point. Next time by, James Skyley leads by 2.4, Finney.
Almost had a big moment with Ricky Springer and Seth Nolan at turn 1. I heard him yelling on the radio, I'm locking up, I'm locking up, I'm locking up. Almost went into Seth Nolan turn 1.
That's worth looking at. Let's see what we got here. Go back a little further and catch what that looked like. There's Ricky Springer in the 51. Pretty hard to unlock the tires once you get them locked. Watch this. He dives down the inside right here. Oh, man, that was tight.
I was expecting to hear a loud crashing sound, but that never came. So Springer did just enough to save it. He's struggling a little bit. Oh, almost hits the wall on the exit of the backstretch chicane. He's starting to struggle here to keep up with the 1.
And he's going to go back to the back to the most exciting battle on the racetrack. Okresic and Mitchell. These guys have been going at it over the last handful of laps or so. Still holding on to 7th is Okresic. Now we go a little further back. Bryce Senesac and Anna Sogak. This is the battle for the 18th spot on the track. Now there are no cautions in this, so Lucky Dog is out the window, but I don't think Anna Sogak pitted. I know that Bryce Senesac did. Not sure if the 67 went down, and
He did not.
he's going to move out of the way because Jake Nichols is right there. That's how much ground these guys have made up on the lap cards. Then that's 11 seconds back from race leader James Skyley.
So remember, the 67 was involved in some incidents, so he's lost a lot of track position just because of that. A couple notes for you guys. You guys mentioned Ricky Springer working the back bumper of Seth Knoll. Ricky was complaining, albeit lightheartedly on the radios, just complaining that Seth wouldn't let him by. I don't know why Seth would. I think Ricky just thinks he's faster and wants to get back up the road, but after that moment, he has given up a lot of ground, and I think he may have hurt his tires a little bit, if you can hurt the tires with his current tire model on the next-gen car at road courses, but the 51 has fallen away from the 1. Meanwhile, Physicus Motorsports, I dropped in to listen in and see if I could pick up any clips for you guys. Dead silent on the radio across that team. That is both Greg Mitchell and Dom DeLeo, the 22 and the 2, working very hard. Dom said, he did give me one quote to put on the broadcast here, akined it to, he did not study, but he has to take a test today. And this is how unprepared he feels for this road course, especially after the build. Don DeLeo not very comfortable in that 22, still making something out of it. Currently 14th on the racetrack, just ahead of the 13 of Cedric Hunter.
You know, in the past, I would have said that was a much bigger deal than it is tonight as Greg Mitchell hits pit lane. And here comes Cedric Hunter to the inside of DeLeo. But when there's only one of these races on the schedule, you can afford to throw it away, right? When you have 2 or 3 of them on the calendar in a 17-race season, you have to at least be decent at them, but when there's only one, you can afford to throw away a race. So, while it is, a test that you didn't study for, it's not 50% of your grade for sure.
Now, Greg Mitchell off and on pit lane, only 6.4 seconds in his box. Just going to slide ahead of Connor Horn. Connor Horn yet to pit. So Greg Mitchell leading of the drivers that have made their one and only stop this race.
He's caught up with the 2 of Mitchell. Kind of fallen off a little bit. Ooh, and Horn going to tap the wall before going into NASCAR turn 1.
Ooh,
and tapping going in turn 1. And his teammate behind him as well. Jeremy Miller, although he's multiple laps down. But a nice bounce back for the 42 of Connor Horn. Could salvage a top 10 out of this. Who knows? Maybe even a top 5.
And so far, we haven't seen anyone take tires, right? The only one that would have been Ben Pierce and Justin Bondurant. But everyone else, I think, has just been fuel only, yeah?
Yep. Connor Krezek into pit lane in the number 14 car.
I'd expect to see the rest of the field coming pretty shortly, just because mathematically you're at halfway. You know, there's really no need to go any further, right?
I think we might see these guys maybe run further just because less gas in the car, or maybe a little bit faster. Not that the fuel makes it that much of the weight for these things. A lot heavier than a GT car, especially a Formula car. Open, but see Travis Beckner, big dive to the inside of Edward Scherer Jr. He will go up to 7th place on track. 70 tries to come back at him.
It's like a revolving door for the 7th spot. Lemaire, who's there? Oh, whoa, Weishart, you just saw that right there in front of you. David Weishart just crashed into turn 1.
Yeah, we also, in the background, had missed, where was this? Hold on.
Not too long ago.
Oh, there it is. It didn't pick up the replay there. Lock up and just full on Kevin Harvick did into turn 1 there, unfortunately.
That's exactly the reference I was going to make, Kyle.
Yeah, and then we had heard a moment ago that the 30 of Jeremy Miller had straight lined the chicane. Was it this lap or the previous one? That was the front straight chicane. Was it the backstretch one? Right here.
Holy.
Just gave up, went straight.
Whoa, got some air.
Yeah, well, he's on a Pro 2 car.
He didn't even hit a turtle there. I don't know if we can still shot that backstretch chicane at all. There's one rumble strip that is totally out of place up in the air, just off our timing card there.
I see it.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's just out of nowhere. It's
I've never
up in the
noticed
air
that
compared
before.
to the rest of them.
I've never
That's what
noticed that.
I don't know that was that way before. That's what he launched off of.
I'm just looking at the B-roll to see. This is from a number of years ago now. Oh, no, it is like that. You see it right there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you can kind of see it.
Huh,
Yeah.
Just off the... You'd think of all people, I would have been the one to notice that, but I never did.
Well, I guess because you're not gone flying over it.
Yeah, usually I'm hitting the apex there. At least I'd like to think I am.
Such an oddity in the track. Hey, so Edward Scherer Jr. just made his pit stop as well. 32.5 seconds pit lane traversal time for the 17. If I'm James Scioli or Jake Matheson, now's the time. Jake Matheson just turned the fastest lap on the racetrack that last lap. And these guys have 54 seconds over 7th place Greg Mitchell, who has now made his stop. I'm taking this stop because I'm going to come out in clean air and amongst maybe a couple lappers here and there that have been graciously giving up their track position anyway for the leaders. If I'm one of those two, I'm making that pit stop now because I'm coming out in clean air.
Clean air is king as we're past the halfway point here from the Charlotte Roval. Race fans, head over to simwrapmarket.com for custom iRacing paint scheme templates that are simple and easy to use, so it keeps you more focused on the racetrack. And be sure to check out rickshotsauce.com for some of the best hot sauces made locally in South Florida. Try the Loxahatchee Classic, Golden Garlic, Palm Beach Pineapple, or South Beach Heat. Follow the Rick's Hot Sauce Rookie of the Year battle in the Area Cup Series and see which driver will take home the $100 prize as the highest finishing rookie in the point standings. Kwame Scott on pit lane, and the rest of the field still has yet to make their final stops, but it sounds like now is about the right time to get things done, Finney.
You know, there's a massive gap between Michael Curran and Greg Mitchell, about 30 seconds worth, and then some of just no car between them. So, like Eric mentioned, it's a perfect time to come in. You will have clean air to work with, no traffic to work with, and for Matheson, that's really exactly what you want, especially because now the car is really starting to come alive, and he's knocking off lap after lap. His last few laps have been within a hundredth of a second, or a couple hundredths of a second of each other. You're talking about James Scioli's consistency. Matheson's been nailing the consistency and the speed.
Something to keep an eye on, because I don't think the 56 is going to be the first one to budge, although he might have to undercut to try and find a way around the 7, because this has been the longer run, and we're not going to have a longer run. It's going to be like a short stint to the end, maybe 15 laps or so, depending on when these guys pit. But 7 Scioli right now just trying to preserve the tires. He might come in this lap, but eventually these guys will have to make a pit stop within the next handful of laps.
He'll go past the entrance this time through. And pick up 17 laps to go here from the Roval. See him taking big chunks of curb there, Finian. I don't remember him doing that before. You see the wiggle and the wobble leaving the corner. You know, James is a really experienced road racer and perhaps always the one to beat, so it's a bit surprising to see him kind of using the curbs as a crutch, so to speak.
His last lap was 7 thousandths off of his best lap in the entire race. So I think it's safe to say the tire fall off is negligible, as we pretty much assumed coming into tonight. We got Eric Wineland back with us. Eric, what do you got?
Ricky Springer on pit road right now, and I don't see the jack going up anywhere, so I think this is a fuel-only stop for the 51. Actually, we pick up him hitting his box just now. And yeah, no jack either side. So the 51 fuel only as well. Let's see, he should release now. Oh, he's in longer. I'm surprised. His stop time is pretty long. That was a 14-second stop. It's almost like he took 4 tires. We didn't see the car raise up at all, which usually tells me the tires were taken, so I'll go double check on that for you guys. But also, James Scioli, Jake Madison turning sub 1 minute 20-second lap times into the 119s now. You want to turn your fast laps before you make your pit stop. So again, I'm ramping up toward a James Scioli or Jake Matheson pit stop here very, very soon.
And James Scioli in the purple for a moment. Is that going to be his best lap? 119.680 it is. But wow. Yeah, I was going to say, ask if it counted. It did. So he was on track and just ran his best lap of the race. And I'm trying to see, so did Seth Knoll, a 120.079. So did Michael Curhan, 123.92. So a lot of cars just ran their best. But so did Greg Mitchell, and he already has come to pit lane. So it seems like the tires don't really matter at all.
Yeah, really don't. And if anything, I guess it's beneficial for a lot of these guys to just run with the tank empty. It's either it's giving them some sort of speed. If anything, might be helping the handling just a little bit to their favor. And Matheson, actually, just watching him, he scraped the wall just a little bit on the coming to the entry back onto the oval.
Well, back with
catch up with 7.
I was going to say, back with us, Eric Wineland. Did you get any info on what happened with Springer on the pit stop?
No tires, longer fuel fill. And I'm not sure why that would be the case, Hunter. The only thing I can think of is if he's been running in lower gears to be higher in the revs and has burned more fuel in doing so, but I wouldn't think it would be that big of a discrepancy. You see Douglas Newbigging down pit road. He's now going a lap down. We watched Jake Matheson go through that front stretch chicane. Man, these guys are bouncing off those turtles. But yeah, I'm not sure why Springer had the longer fuel fill than anyone else. He was about 8 seconds longer than any other competitor that has made a pit stop so far.
Watch the 56 sling through there, Finian.
I've been watching him the last couple of times through that chicane. He's been absolutely eating the curbs on the entry. I think at the end of this race, his suspension is going to jump out of the car and probably bludgeon him to death because he's been absolutely abusing it. This race is trying to find any sort of 10th, any sort of 100th that he can on Scioli.
We got it close to, sorry, Kyle, he got it close to around 2.1 seconds, but now it's kind of going back up to 2.5, saw it at 2.6 there, but still waiting on the inevitable pit stop from both the 7 and the 56.
Well, look at all this traffic just ahead of him. So if I'm James Scioli, the last thing I want to do is drive into that pack of traffic. I'd expect him to hit pit lane this time or next. But he's still running his fastest laps of the race, though, Finian. So that's, you just know that your time's coming to an end here to keep running. Here he comes.
Yeah, that's a smart decision. Well, Matheson do the opposite. He will, but he's got traffic ahead of him. He's got Ben Pierce that he's got to try to navigate. That's going to cost him time. And it might have been worth it for him to come in a lap before because he's definitely going to catch his lap traffic ahead.
7 on pit road, 56 going to stay out for at least another lap, maybe 2. But yeah, right when they're catching lap traffic, that's going to cost him a few tenths and could determine the factor of winning or coming in second. As Jake Nichols, Seth Knoll are in the top 3 now. Michael Kern's also down pit road. Scioli's already out of pit road, just a gas and go for the 7.
And only 6.5 seconds spent in the pit lane, which is a fairly short, that's on the shortest end of the stops that we've seen. So he should not really lose much time there. And he's back ahead of another pack of traffic. You see them all behind with the 22, the 8, and another car behind it, and he's got fairly clear track ahead of him, whereas Jake Matheson, he's cleared the one car, but now it's just a whole line of cars. So if he doesn't hit pit lane this time, I would see this as a misstep, Finian.
Yeah, I was going to say, he very much should come down to pit lane now. He's got Lakatos and a Sogak, and I think Jeremy Miller up ahead.
And he's going to go around one of the slow cars there and hit the pit lane. Is he locked up just slightly? Did he get it slowed down properly?
Yeah, he did. No black flag for the 56. And now
Jake
big
Nichols
question.
stays out.
Yeah, Nichols staying out. Big question is, did Matheson staying out that one lap, did that help him at all?
It might have cost him a second or two on the racetrack. Just speculating, as there's the 7 flying on by. The 56 still in pit road, now coming out. Gonna be close.
So it's going to end up being, I think, a net gain for Scioli. But not a lot. Well, maybe not. 2.1 as Matheson deals with the 22 there. Got ahead of a couple of those cars, which is pretty crucial.
Basically the same as they came in, I think.
Yeah, 2.3. That was just 2 very well executed sequences for both those drivers. This is a battle here for 14th, by the way. Slate, DeLeo, Newbegin.
You're starting to see a lot more battles for New as more and more drivers come down to pit lane. Majority of the field has pit. A couple stragglers. Jake Nichols, Seth Knoll, Connor O'Horn, and Cedric Hunter have yet to make their one and only stop.
Speaking of the stop, we'll stop back in with Eric Wineland, who's back with us. What you got, Eric?
Identical pit lane traversals is what I got. James Scioli and Jake Matheson down to the 10th of a second were the exact same from the moment they hit pit entry to the moment they hit pit exit. So the difference being I got 2.5 seconds right now on the racetrack, tells me that they both hit it basically perfectly or at the same pace as the other. So surprised to see no difference there, but then again, these two are executing at such a high level tonight. Maybe I'm not as surprised. Connor Okrezik radio for you guys as well.
What are you going to deal with Greg?
Greg undercut me.
Yeah, Greg ran away.
We've been about the same speed, but I got caught up in some lap traffic that was horrible, and I'm gonna miss this corner.
Connor then screamed on the radio a couple explicitive words that I won't play for you guys on the broadcast. He did make the corner. That corner was the front stretch chicane. He was locked up coming off the banking of NASCAR Turn 4. Still pushing hard even in 8th place after making his stop. He's trying to chase the 2 of Greg Mitchell down.
Thanks, Eric. 12 laps to go, and the only 4 cars that have yet to pit, Jake Nichols, Seth Knoll, Connor Horn, and Cedric Hunter. Everyone else has made their pit stop. As we go back to watch Newbegin and DeLeo trade spots, and Jake Nichols finally hits pit lane. Seth Knoll is going to stay out one more time, and I think he's got to come to pit lane before too much longer. And this should recycle at least the front 5 or 10 back out to how they were prior to the pit stop sequence.
Yeah, might be able to go about another 2 or 3 laps at most, depending on how much he's been saving, which I doubt at all. But he'll be in fairly soon. His teammate, though, down on pit lane, Jake Nichols, getting service. And off and away, 7.5 seconds in the box for the 73.
Good gap between himself and 5th place Michael Curran, as Curran's already made his pit stop, so nothing to worry about there for Jake Nichols unless some action happens on the racetrack, and that can always happen, but nonetheless, still a strong 4th place run for that 73. Right behind him there is Senesac. Wanted to talk about Senesac real quick. He's currently in a 3-way tie for 9th in the standings. Worst finish this season has been 37th in the Las Vegas Oval, and currently running 17th on the track. So it's a really interesting climb from the 09 and Senesac, as he's got 2 top 10s on the season. 13th, 20th, 10th, 37th, and 10th have been his finishes this season, and that's what you need to do, Kyle, in order to become a playoff-eligible driver. You need to be consistent, and Senesac doing just that, even on the oval.
Consistency is the key. Here's Travis Beckner, still trying to recover from that early collision that turned him sideways. He's back where he started and wants one spot better. Goes to the right of Connor Horn, and Horn's going to give it to him there and slot in right behind him.
Barely gives it to him. Seth Knoll, meanwhile, coming out of pit lane, will surrender the lead back over to James Scully, and Jake Matheson will continue the fight. And Matheson has closed in quite a bit. The gap under 2 seconds, yeah, almost about a second and a half. So that 56 starting to make some headway.
Scully being conservative with the lap car right in front of him. That might be a playing factor into this, but we'll have to see as the 56 continues to close the gap down to 1.6.
Yeah, James Scioli losing some time here and there, but still running sub 120 lap times. But Jake Matheson just ran his best lap, a 19.373. That is cooking. That's the fastest lap of the race by over 2.5 tenths of a second. So if that's not a wake-up call to Scioli, I don't know what is. This 56 is looking very, very good. And remember, Scioli hasn't typically had a ton of competition on the road courses. On the Florida State Builders Pro Series side, he had John Furness a couple of times way back when at Mid-Ohio, but other than that, he really hasn't had someone go toe-to-toe with him at a road course really since we started broadcasting here on Sim TV. Could today be that day?
Very much can be. Matson's been one of the cars to beat this season. 2 wins to his name, the only multi-time winner this season so far. So he's really starting to kick him up to a notch in the series, showing he's going to be the man to beat this season if these guys want to fight for the championship. And trying to show even Scioli was it was pretty much toe-and-toe with Jake Nichols last season, that I'm knocking on the door, I'm not going to let you run away with this. And now even in the later parts of this race, to under 10 laps to go, still coming at him.
Yeah, still has a chance here as the 7 works his way on the lap car of Skylar Shackelford. 1.6 seconds separating Scully and Matheson, and then you got to go back to 15 seconds for the 73 of Jake Nichols. So at this point, it's a 2-horse race. The 7's going to look to the inside. The 88's going to let him go through NASCAR turn 2, and Scully will have his eyes set on the backstretch chicane.
Brave slate, Douglas Newbegin, battle here for position, 14th place. Felt like we've mentioned this position a couple of times tonight. It's been pretty dynamic back here between the 8 and the 71. Connor Horn hits pit lane. He was owed us a pit stop. So did Cedric Hunter. Both of them will make that stop now as we watch 64 lock up. And then, whoa, big cut there from the 71 trying to get the thing woed down.
These guys have been really generous with taking a huge helping of curb on the entry. And I haven't seen many people caught out by a slowdown. So they've been taking out just enough as Cedric Hunter is off and away. So everyone has made their stop and they're good to go to the end.
Gap continuing to close between the 7 and the 56. 1.2 seconds separating them now, as that's the teammate Kwame Scott for Jake Matheson, both a part of Miller Racing.
And sorry to cut you off, Hunter. Part of that was because Kwame Scott held up Scully a little bit.
Oh, no surprise there. And playing into the favor for the 56 for the meantime, as the 7 now has his eyes set on Ben Pierce, lap car going into NASCAR turn 1.
Yeah, Scully really just needs to get through the traffic efficiently. Again, even if Matheson gets there, you still have to find enough overlap and enough pace to actually pass Scully. That's a whole different thing. Scully on defense is going to be very, very tricky to deal with. But if the gap comes down to under 3 or 4 tenths of a second, it's within...
Oh, he messed up the chicane! Messed up the chicane! Gosh. Here comes Matheson on the rebound.
Wow, where did that come from? Here comes the 56 with a run, and he takes the lead away. How about that? From out of nowhere, Matheson takes the top spot.
Boy, shot out of the cannon was that 56 coming out of the backstretch chicane, and the 7 messing up is what led to that moment. Now we're coming to 7 laps to go. Can the 7 get back in? The 56 messes up. Here comes the 7. They're going to be side by side into turn 1.
Battle is on. 7 laps to go as they head through turn 1, side by side for the race lead. 2 drivers vying for another victory here on the season. Both road course aces slide from the 56, locking up the tires alongside Scioli.
Yeah, you see the 56 trying to keep the purchase on the inside. Can't quite get it done. The 7 powers down on the back straightaway and will get past 56 of Matheson, but he is definitely there.
Yeah, now it's game on now. No one's holding back. There's no tires to save, so it's go, go, go. Scioli made a very rare mistake on the back straightaway. When's the last time we saw that happen?
Yeah, it was because he was reacting to Ben Pierce coming down into the braking zone, and he jumped on the brakes sooner than the number 7.
Yeah,
thought he was going to.
Trying to go back to pick up where that had all happened. Here it is going into the chicane here, jumps the curb and just sails over it, misses the corner entirely, and then Matheson makes the pass to the inside. They go down to the final chicane, and he does exactly the same there on the curbing on exit, bounces wildly, can't get the car to settle, and gives it right back. So now, can Matheson keep the pressure on? Oh, he's going to make another mistake.
Yeah, he's been riding these curves really aggressively. It's starting to hurt him here, but he still continues on, or is a good save for the 56.
Man, he did the same thing that last time by, where it's just that extra hop coming out of the last turn on the front stretch chicane, and that's given a gap now back to the 7 of Sky. Only 6 car lengths separating the two, but the margin for error is slimmer to none, more than ever, as the 7 you saw there, he had that moment on the backstretch chicane. You're going to want to avoid that within the next 6 laps of this event.
Well, as long as Matheson can keep the pressure applied, the mistakes here are easy to come by because you're not dealing with a nice flowy road course where you can rely on the same inputs to give you the same result. There are just times when you can just get a bad hop, and that's what Matheson has gotten a few times over the curves. Sometimes you hit them and you just feel like Superman. You sail over the top and you carry on. Other times you just land the slightest bit wrong and it takes you to the parking lot out back and steals your lunch money. So just not making mistakes is going to be key there. Skyley was a little tight and Matheson got a better run that time through.
He actually scraped a little bit of the wall of the 56, and he actually took a huge helping on curb, but he did that amazingly. He just skated over the turtles, so that was an interesting run there. And here he goes flying through the chicane, and great run through there as well. And a much better lap, was almost 3/10 up on the 7 last time through, and they got the lap car, Jeremy Miller, coming up in just a little bit.
Well, on board with Matheson here. 5 laps remaining from the Charlotte Roval. Head back down to Eric Weiland with another update.
Radio from a few laps ago, the highs and lows of stock car racing. Listen in, this is all from Miller Racing and Jake Matheson.
I hope he doesn't pass Ben before that chicane. That'd be huge. Yep, huge. Huge.
Oh, Scully messed up chicane.
Get him.
To the lead. J-Man.
Yeah.
Jake, did you just take the lead?
Yo.
All right,
Boy, I just keep on trucking, drive that thing away.
All right, shut up and set sail, driver. Let's go get this done.
Yeah, Devin, you don't want to hear us.
As quickly as his teammates hyped him up, he fell off the cliff when he blew the front stretch chicane.
That was my one chance.
Did he get
I
back
hopped,
by you?
Yeah, he did. I hopped way too hard in the chicane, the last chicane.
So you guys have documented it's all going to come down to how they catch the lap traffic and how well can Jake Matheson attack back at James Scioli. He is slightly faster right now, and he's continuing to close this gap. And the one thing I noticed, man, he hits those turtles on the front stretch so much harder than James Scioli, and Jake Matheson is already back there, guys.
Yeah, it's still game on here. The slightest mistake and this race goes to the next driver. What a great battle this is here between Scioli and Matheson. Man, this is good stuff. This race was pretty standard as far as road races in area go, with Scioli leading most of the race, but all of a sudden this wild card, this new driver to the championship, Jake Matheson and Miller Racing, a team that's had the most success of anybody so far this year, they're here to mix things up at the Charlotte Roval.
I was going to say, it was some great influx of talent in this season. Like you mentioned, Jake Matheson, one of them here, trying to see if he can get past James Scioli here in the closing laps as they come flying back onto the oval section. And Matheson, just a matter of finding out where he can try to get past Scioli, because we were talking about him. 56 has definitely been the faster of the two cars, but obviously we always say catching is one thing. Passing is a completely different ball game as they both work into their way into the final chicane. And man, I just cannot believe how much 56 gets away with, though. He messed up a little bit more that time.
Oh, he messed up a lot that time. Went right over both of the turtles there, as now trying to make that back up through the front stretch chicane, and might overdrive it on the exit this time, but the 7 continue to hold on to that lead. There's Matheson going through the chicane just fine on the front stretch, made up to a couple attempts. We got 3 laps to go, but the replay of that moment on the back stretch chicane.
And this is the front straight one, just showing how aggressive he's being over that. And Eric, that can hurt you.
Absolutely. One more note I forgot to add to the radios that I played for you guys. Never have I gone into a Lucky Duck Motorsports team channel and seen James Scioli deafened. He is deafened in Discord. He is totally focused on his racing line right now. I've never known James Scioli to do that. Man, he is blocking everything else out. It is him focused on the racetrack, and so far it's paying off. But he is losing just that little bit of time every lap. As long as Matheson doesn't make a mistake, he'll get back there once more.
There's no late race yellow to take this away from you. There's no draft line that you have to be in. This is all down to you in the car. So I think there's absolutely some ego on the line here as well. If Scioli in perhaps his best track of the season where he's got the biggest advantage, if he were to get beat here, is that a sign for more on the season? Matheson and Miller Racing, they've been wildly successful so far. I think both these drivers are going to be going for the championship head-to-head. I think this is the first time that we're really going to get to see them go toe-to-toe. And with only 2 laps left, Matheson has to find something more than just sailing over the curbs to find an advantage.
Yeah, he really does. He needs to find something here. We're running out of laps here, 2 to go at the line. And as far as lap traffic is concerned, there's Connor Horn and Justin Adesogak. I don't really think they're going to get to anyone else by the end of this race. So Matheson, he's really going to have to rely on his skill, and if anything, just hope that Scully somehow makes a mistake here in these closing laps.
It'll be interesting to see if that is the case, because the 7 very rarely is prone to mistakes. I'm not sure if he's done 2 mistakes in one race. We'll have to see as the laps are dwindling. The time is slipping away from the 56 of Jake Matheson. He had it there, and then he lost it, trying to gain it back as they're rolling through NASCAR Turn 1.
You're just wishing you could do things over again when you had the lead. Could you have been more conservative than Matheson was in that half lap that he had it? I think absolutely would be the answer to that, but you don't get a do-over. Scioli was ready to pounce, and he was able to undo his mistake, and you have to get him to do another mistake again. Look at Matheson just clobbering every curb in sight, 7/10 back, and coming to the white flag this time.
Yeah, because he knows he's got a big gap to work with. Even if he makes a mistake, he's got 14 seconds back to third. He can afford to take some bigger risk here for James Scully as he's coming to the white flag. If he can hold off for just one more lap, he'll be looking at the first win of the season for that number 7 car.
Matheson gained a bunch, but he slammed the wall, leaving the final corner. He's just getting really greedy. He needs to find more time, and it's going to come in the form of the chicanes, but those can bite you as hard as they can give to you.
Definitely, as either work their way through. You can see Connor Horn up ahead. Now, I imagine Connor Horn's probably going to stay out of this. We'll see what he does. That could be the deciding factor depending on what he does. But Matheson, again, like you mentioned, is pushing as hard as he possibly can. I'm curious to see, do we see the 56 maybe do a bump and run?
I think if he's close enough, he might be able to do so. Half a second back from the 7 still as they're working their way through NASCAR Turn 1 for the final time. The 56 needs all the ground he can get on the 7 of Scioli, although a good exit there from Matheson might close enough gap to the 7 of Scioli as they work their way down the backstretch for the final time.
Yeah, he's going to have to just take a huge chunk of curb here, but this could be a double-edged sword here. Turns in, 4 tires over the left, missed the right there a little bit. He's going to lose some of the ground on exit. That was a critical sequence of corners. James Scioli almost lost this one, and Matheson is right behind him. Track's covered in Bank of America signs, but the name going on the check tonight is going to be James Scioli, laughing all the way to the bank through the last corner. Matheson's close, but he can't get there. Scioli takes the win at the Roval, and Matheson comes up short, only half a second short, slamming the concrete there in the final moments of the lap.
I was thinking about what happened to Jimmy Johnson and Ryan Blaney, or sorry, not Jimmy Johnson, Martin Truex there at the end here. He's still got some racing left. Whoa, there is Travis Beckner making a dive on Connor Krasek. Ooh, both of them going to make a sloppy move through the chicane, but it'll be the 28 that'll get past the 14.
Yeah, great move there from the 28 of Beckner. 14 overdrives it over the curbing, and that's going to cost him 8th position. Travis Beckner, after being involved in that first lap melee, is going to come through with a top 10 finish as he works through the final 2 turns. 8th place for him, 9th place for Kresick, and then, well, someone just... Is that a motor that just went?
Something went somewhere. But Jake Matheson almost made a liar out of me a little while ago. Here is what this last sequence of corners looked like as they came down the back straightaway here into the final corner. And he just absolutely just tried to send it and almost got there, pounded the wall. Gave it the old Kyle Larson there in the final corner. But what a race, guys. That was awesome stuff. And the winner maybe was not surprising, but the battle certainly was. I think we were not expecting that, and I think we're all glad to see it with the battle there at the end. James Scioli gets it done. Jake Matheson, Nichols, Seth Knoll no Toyotas in the top 10, Finian.
Yeah, I was going to say, there was only a single Toyota. Actually, sorry, there were 2 Toyotas in the entire field. Bryce Senizak was leading on them in the 09, and then the only other Toyota, Garrett Grant, finishing down in 27th. Otherwise, it's a lot of bow ties and a lot of blue ovals.
There you see good finish there inside the top 10 for Greg Mitchell. And Ed Shearer Jr., he was up close to 7th on the day and rounds through with a 10th place finish. As we look throughout the rest of the finishing results, Connor Horn there was caught up right at the very end of that as the leaders were coming through for the checkered flag, the last car to finish on the lead lap. Then you got Douglas Dubing, 13th after that lap 1 melee along with Travis Spector. Slate, Dominic DeLeo, Senizak, the highest finishing Toyota, and then Inesogak, Bondurant, Miller, and Ben Pierce.
And looking down the rest of the order here, some drivers that didn't have the nights they were looking for. Garrett Grant, Dwayne Culberson, Ed Robertson. Some of these cars out early with crash damage. Didn't really get to talk about Casey Licata a lot. David Weishart ended up down in 24th. That'll be a night to forget for the number 33. Kwame Scott had a decent run going and just called it a night towards the end of that, which was a bit surprising. But let's talk to our third place runner. It was Jake Nichols, who I picked to win this race, and Jake, or myself, at least some solid commentator points tonight. I needed a solid night, and he got me a third, so thanks for that. But tonight, standard road race here at the Charlotte Roval. Got exciting towards the end, but strategy and making sure you hit the curbs just right was a key all night long.
Yeah, I kind of expected around where I got. I'm not that good at qualifying. I'm a little too patient. I'm trying not to run off the track, trying not to crash, trying not to slip and slide. So I didn't get the greatest Q lap, but I was confident Seth and I would have good race pace once we got going and once we spread out a little bit. And both of us I kept following him through. Every pass he'd make, I'd gain, get right on his bumper and follow him past the same car. And once we got going, I think I was pretty much same pace, maybe a tick off. But once I got within my own realm of like 5 seconds in front and back, I kind of just eased it a little bit, just brought it home. We got some bonus points for a clean race and a lap led. Same with Seth with a lap led. So it's great team night again. We keep reeling them in a little by little, and that's the goal. We had a struggle race at Phoenix where we all kind of got wrecked, but still stayed in distance, and we're pretty much just trying to reel them in case they have that kind of race too, which everyone can have that kind of race where you just get involved in everything. So either way, we'll take a third. Seth with 4th. Dwayne didn't really have a great night, but and Tyler wasn't here with personal matter. But either way, we're happy with what we got. Those two are in a class of their own. I don't think I could have been consistent enough to beat them, but either way, we'll take the good points and move forward.
Jake Nichols, third tonight from the Roval. Jake, thanks so much.
Thank you.
And it was Jake Matheson who made things very exciting tonight, challenging James Scioli for the lead. You had it for a moment, and I'm sure there's some things you wish you could have done over. You gave it everything you had there in the final couple laps. It was super fun to watch, Jake, but didn't quite pan out. Take us through your night and that epic battle there with James.
Yeah, I don't remember what lap it was, but right towards the end there, I had my shot, and half a lap later, I gave it away. So that hurts, but yeah, I mean, James was just lights out on pace all night until we hit pit stops, and I got kind of lucky with the lap cars, how it lined up. I was able to catch back up to him, but hats off to him, man. He was by far the fastest, and without those lap cars, I wasn't going to touch him. So good job to him.
So looking at the totality of the season, of course, road courses only make up this event. We have no more road racing for the rest of the season. As far as going up against guys like Scioli, who are so good at the road races, does this make things easier or harder to battle Scioli when he's obviously good at the road races, and you are too, but there's most of the rest of the oval, or the season is all ovals? Yeah,
I mean, I think it was lap 38 right here. We were side by side for at least half the infield, only touched a little tiny bit. So me and him, we raced each other with respect. And on ovals, he's obviously a threat, and he's up there with the threat. So it just, I guess it makes me realize who's really good on road course in here.
Well, certainly you're not so shabby. Fastest lap of the race and second place for Jake Matheson for Miller Racing. Jake, congrats. We'll talk to you next time.
Yeah, thank you. Just real quick, want to thank Calusa Pines, Celsius, Area Shop, Alien Gear, Huckett Films, and Miller Racing for everything they do. And we'll be back at it next week.
All right, we'll see you there, Jake. Thanks.
See ya.
And James Scioli back where he left off as far as the road races are concerned. James, tonight was not as easy as I think we were all expecting it to be for you. You had a lead for a while. The pit stops happened. Jake ran you down. A rare mistake on the back straightaway. You almost threw it away there, but you were able to drive away again in the closing moments of that one. Take us through your night and how much action you had in the mirror those last 10 laps.
Yeah, it definitely got a lot more exciting than I wanted it to. I was able to hold kind of a 2-second lead the whole time. There were quite a few ebbs and flows, it seemed, in pace. Just looks like kind of one guy would heat up his tires a little bit too much and lose some time, and then the other guy would, and you'd gain it right back. So just trying to maintain a gap there, pitted to avoid the lap cars, knew that I was going to catch them, and we were catching a big string of them. So I just wanted to get out and just try and get some clean track. And then on the backstretch, I'd already been held up by Kwame a bit earlier in the lap, and then just going into that chicane, just a little bit of a miscommunication. I think it was Ben Pierce. I think he was trying to let me go, slowing down. It's just I didn't expect it. I wasn't on the radio or anything, so he might have been saying something, but just didn't expect him to slow down like that into the braking zone. So I had to get off the brakes to kind of avoid him, and then just went flying through that chicane. And honestly, kind of thought that it was done at that point, but just figured that I could put my head down. I knew Matheson probably knew that I was the best on pace, so he was probably gonna make a mistake or two, and that's exactly what happened. And then we just had some great racing from that point on. Big props to him for running side by side like that for so long. You can't do that with too many people, so that was fun.
We had Eric tell us that you were deafened in Discord there, which he says he's never seen you do. How much focus was required there to keep that 56 behind you in that battle?
Yeah, a lot. And these cup cars are tough. You have to push so hard, and so once all that happened, I just had to focus, just didn't need any distractions, and really just had to try and get back to running the laps that I knew I could run and just try and pull away there at the end.
James, congratulations. Solid race, well-earned victory tonight here at the Charlotte Roval, the only road course on the season. I know you wish you might have more because you're so solid here, but job well done, and congratulations. We'll see you next week.
Thank you, and a huge shout out to you guys for capturing awesome battles like that. I can't wait to go back and watch that. Should be a fun one to watch. Huge shout out to the admin team. Nice, no cautions this week, no rainouts, so I'm sure they're happy about that. And then just want to give a huge shout out to Simrack Market, Roasted Gems Coffee, and No Kid Hungry, and Lucky Ducks. I don't know if we gained any team points, but I don't think we lost any, so good day for us, and we'll try and get another trophy tomorrow.
Solid, James. Thanks for talking. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, guys.
All right, guys, that was awesome. I like road racing. No surprises there. We did get kind of that procession race that we were typically expecting, but it got pretty spicy there at the end between James and Jake, and that battle was a lot better than I think we were all expecting. But no Tom's heartburn moment for those front two. There was a few others, though, Finian, that didn't make it through the night that they'll have to rebound next week.
Yeah, I was going to say they were really the class of the field, and I'm glad that we were able to see at least some sort of battle between them. But yeah, the rest of the field struggling, and I'm sure they cannot wait to get out of here. Although we're not exactly completely leaving Charlotte, as next week for all three series, we're going to be back on the big oval.
The big oval indeed, but we're going to be continuing the Roval tradition, at least for this week, with the Truck Series tomorrow night and the Pro Series on Thursday night. But that was better than what I expected. It looked like the typical area iRacing road course race where, you know, the front two or so are close nose and tail, and then the rest of the field is spread out. But at the very end, you could say it was the Rick's Hot Sauce spiciest moment of the race, with the 7 of Scioli and the 56 of Matheson duking it out the last handful of laps.
Hunter may have just made a new promo. I think he needs to be a part of the marketing team at Rick's Hot Sauce. What do you guys think? I'll bring that graphic back up. I'm going to make a plea here.
iRacing,
please, for the love of all things, give us a better naming scheme for the track. I don't want to have to go through the 2018 and 2019 folder just to get to the Roval. Please, iRacing, fix that in a patch. No, what an awesome night. Now, you know, the road course guys shown, the light was shown on them once more. James Scioli, I mean, you guys let me pick on pole, and, you know, track position really was a key thing tonight because, you know, first pick ended up winning the race. I'm just going to toot my own horn there a little bit. But absolutely, track position was key, and you didn't want to be caught up in the incidents that we saw happen early in the race. And then David Weishart got a little bit of heartburn with the Tom's heartburn turn, and what an exciting battle between Matheson and Scioli. I don't think that'll be the last one we see this season. Even though this is the only road course, guys, I don't think that'll be the last time we see those two go at it. Matheson was the class of the field at our last 1.5 mile racetrack, and we'll continue this area month of December at Charlotte with the Oval next week before we head into the Christmas break. So I'm looking forward to maybe another battle between the 56 and 7 next week. But trucks are up tomorrow night, Kyle, right here at Charlotte.
Yeah, we go road racing a couple more times before we say sayonara to the road racing this season. And as Finian mentioned, Charlotte next week, 140 laps before Darlington, Richmond, Homestead, Indianapolis, and Talladega round out our regular season. First dual PC stream done successfully. All good things heading forward. Looking forward to the rest of the week. Looking forward to the rest of the season here in the Area Cup Series. Kyle Heyer, Finian DeCuna, Hunter Slappy, Eric Wineland with you. See you next time.